Hey, how you guys doing today? Coming at you live from the great state of Kentucky. Well, I'm not in Kentucky, but that's where the story's from today. So, guys, today we're going to talk about Miss Candy Green Gonzalez. Miss Candy Green Gonzalez is a 36-year-old mother to a little 6-year-old boy, and she's been missing since June 1st of this year. So it's getting up there. She needs to be located, and she needs to be located ASAP. Now, this story starts out basically very interestingly because first thing I seen was this video, and I was like, video, wow, surveillance footage, huh? It's not surveillance footage, it's actually a video of Candy right before she disappeared. Well, I mean, leading into her disappearing. It shows the last time she was seen by anybody in this video. And the video is kind of weird. There's a lot of strange things about the video. We'll go over some of those. I'll try to add the video to the link, let you guys see it yourself, because some of it's kind of hard to explain, and some of it's kind of how you see things, you know. Some people see things kind of one way, some see things totally different. But I think the easiest way to straighten all that out is just let everybody take a look at that video. But a little backstory on Candy. Like I said, she's 36-year-old, single mother of one young son, 6-year-old, and she has a boyfriend, and she lives with her boyfriend. Now, I guess that's where we should begin, because the day she went missing, what happened was, apparently her boyfriend, who is Jeff Blackburn, had decided they'd been fighting or something, and he said he had kicked her out. So this picks up immediately. After he had kicked her out, she shows up at these people's property. And the first thing we see is that she seems pretty upset, and that outside of that, there seems to be something else kind of going on. Her demeanor just seems a little off. A lot of people have described the video as she seems to be disoriented going through a neighbor's backyard. And it's kind of odd because I've always see it described as a neighbor's backyard, but it doesn't seem to me that that lady knows her, or if she does, she doesn't know much about her. Because it shows Candy on this woman's property, and the lady is trying to kind of get her to talk to her, and she's not saying much. Apparently she gets out her mother. She wants to speak to her mother, and the lady attempts to call her mother, but gets her mom's voicemail. So she doesn't actually get to communicate to her mother at that point. Now, there's a little bit of back and forth between Candy and this woman, and then there's a guy there, and he's filming this interaction. It's not a very long video, and there's not much said by Candy on the video at all. So I'm thinking there was a little bit of interaction before the video began, or before they began filming the interaction between Candy and this lady, who it seems like is the owner of the property that she's at. Now, there's one real interesting thing about the video, and I watched this multiple times because I kept trying to determine what was being said. My wife watched it multiple times with me, and I kept asking her, what does this sound like? Because at one point in the video, the guy says, "Is that a drug dealer?" And what he's referring to is, now he never puts the video on. what he's seeing, but you can hear a vehicle pull up, and that.
So you're still saying I need to be careful what I say?
Well, I prefer if you wasn't making mama jokes or talking about the fact that I sound like some backwoods redneck, you know. Uh,
What about talking about Jose? Can I mention him anymore?
Hell yes, you can talk about him. Feel free, buddy. You're on J to the D to the T to the C. But we'll go ahead and see what the group thinks. What about you, Rocket? What do you say? Kind of wasn't expecting that, Rocket. You usually go gangster. Well, Rocket, maybe I got something that can change your mind. Meet Harley.
I've got two screens. I've got two screens, and I don't know which one's
Okay, hold on. We'll fix it.
the best one. No, it's probably me. I've got a screen and a screen.
Straight now?
No.
I think that's the best one.
Hold on, let me
Screens
try this.
I've got screens everywhere.
Is it no good?
No, it's good. I'm just trying to figure out which screen to use.
Oh, so it's a harsh issue we're having.
Okay.
No. That's good.
You look good on my end, man. Very handsome.
There you go.
As normal, as normal.
Killing it. What's up, buddy?
Good, good, mate, good. Let's switch that up. What's going on there?
Hi, everybody. Thank y'all for joining us.
Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing?
We're starting a little bit early. I don't know if Harsh is ready, but uh-oh. He went
Harsh
bye-bye.
hung up on us. He'll be back. Harsh is having some issues, I think. How y'all doing? Dope Soul, Dodging Bullets, Blue and Gold, Mallory Young, Shandy Moon, everybody. How's it going this evening? Hey, John Brand. Huh? Let me throw him the link again.
Okay. We started a little bit early.
Well, we started a little bit early because poor old Harsh, man, it's late
Yeah, it is.
where he is.
And
Oh, there he is.
we would probably be
back.
sleeping. I think it's like 12 a.m. there, maybe.
Yeah.
His
That's
time.
better.
What happened, man? Oh, shit. Don't tell me we lost him again.
Uh-oh. Not good.
No, I'm here.
There
I'm
we go.
here. I'm here. I'm
Yay.
here.
Was that you or was that me?
I have no clue, but that's better. I'm going to go with that
Okay.
and ignore that.
Looks good on my end, man.
Yeah, looks good there. Looks good there. That's this. This thing's lagging.
Is it?
The PC, the laptop's lagging. That isn't. So I'm ignoring that.
Okay.
How is everyone?
Everybody seems to be saying they're pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Good, good, good.
Thank you for joining us. What time is it there? 12? Is it?
It
12?
is midnight. Yes, midnight.
Yeah.
Oh, man, we could. I tell you what, if we do another one of these, we'll move it up to 5. How about that?
That's a late for you.
I'm
I know
easy.
you only get a couple. You only need what, 4 hours of sleep or something? He said.
That's it. I'm easy. I'm usually in Discord anyway till about 12, 1 o'clock.
Oh, are you?
Oh.
See, I don't know anything about Discord. I know a lot of people talk about it though. So.
Yeah. So he's not losing much sleep.
Okay, that makes me feel better.
Harsh.
Hit
With
me.
him? You want to do some questions? I got one I want to start out with because I have a feeling you'll know the answer to it, and I've been getting asked it for months.
Right.
And I'm dying to hear your answer. You
Okay.
ready? Let's start it
Yeah.
off with a bang. Is there a connection between Michael Vaughn and Summer Wells by somebody dating somebody? I've heard it a few different ways.
Not what I've been able to find out up to this point.
Okay.
And we do have a PI looking into this case, by the way.
Right. But I know you've heard that too, right?
I've heard it, yeah, but we can't find anything to connect that.
Right.
Okay.
I heard it again just the other day, and I was like, I told the person, I was like, I've never heard of such from any reliable source.
No. I think people want to see a connection there because it makes it,
Yeah.
well, it allows people to run with specific ideas on the case, and I don't think we're going to find that this has anything to do with that.
See, that's where I've been for a long time too. I think we're going down rabbit holes that are going to have nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
So I heard the phone call. The
screaming phone call.
Yeah.
Okay. I see a lot of people are kind of split on their feelings about that. There's a lot that are in that range of, they didn't see it as too over the top. I myself, I thought to a 2-year-old it was pretty strong.
Are you talking about?
I think what people fail to think about is beyond the actual action itself. And I think what we have to imagine is a normal motherly way to act. If you've got a young child who is missing, you would expect them to be overprotective of the children that are left. Brandy, by her own admission, has claimed to be just that. But then when you hear this sort of interaction between her and a 2-year-old, it doesn't paint that picture. And people obviously don't want to jump on and start attacking her because of the situation she's in. But if she wasn't in that position and you just heard somebody in the street talking to a 2-year-old child like that, how would you react then? Would you look at it differently, or are you just accepting it because you're thinking she's been through so much, this can be expected? And I don't think it can. She's not the only one who's going through this situation. You know, we can already see that this little 2-year-old is going to suffer because of it, because of the way her mum's treating her.
I just keep going back to 2 years old and thinking that I don't remember getting mad at my kids when they were 2. I honestly don't remember it.
I would never get that mad.
And especially as upset as she was, because when they were that little, how can you give them blame on anything, really?
Well, that's it, isn't it? What do you expect her to be doing at that age?
Yes, that's the biggest issue I had with it, was the age. Not that the whole thing in its entirety wasn't wrong. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying, when I think about it being a 2-year-old, I think, how can you get that pissed at a 2-year-old?
Yeah, but then it starts to open up Pandora's box then, because then you're thinking along the lines of, well, what does Brandy do to the older children? What was her mothering skills like before all this happened? What was her expectations of them children in certain situations, and how did she handle them?
Right.
And I think that's something that you can't ignore. You have to ignore that. I would expect her at this point in time for her mothering skills to be amplified in a positive, not in a negative.
Yeah.
Right. You would think it would make you value the children you did have.
Oh my God, 100%. Can you imagine? What would you be like with your children if you lost one of them?
I wouldn't leave the room without them.
And especially when you think as well, if you're going by their narrative, that, let's not sugarcoat it, best case scenario is that Michael was abducted then, if we're going with that, but he was abducted because of neglectfulness from the father.
Right.
And that's best case scenario.
Yeah.
So
yes.
You know, it's again bringing into question parenting skills again.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So maybe you would then think, look, we're going to have to sort this out because this is our mistake. We've made an error of judgment and our child has gone missing because of it. We're not going to do that again.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless they don't let us have a phone call, then we'll strangle them.
Yeah. I think she tries to portray as a different persona to everybody. Then listen to the phone calls, you can really tell how she is.
Well, and I think that's the problem. What people are seeing, they are seeing and have seen right from the start this meek and timid and quiet mother right from the start. But she doesn't interact with people like that. Even her friends had reached out to these people who have been kind of bombarded with abuse and said, look, this isn't her. This isn't how she speaks. And we've seen countless hours of communication where Brandy is not talking like that. But to
Right.
the public and what interaction she's having, I suppose where it matters for public sort of opinion and, you know, what she looks like, she's
Right.
playing the part well. She's playing it down to a T.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But that's just, but then when you see these little things, they're even more shocking.
That was shocking to me. I was really taken back when like I said, I keep getting stuck on how small that kid was and the amount of anger she seemed to have in her voice.
Yeah.
You know.
But look, we will say this. Look, this isn't about bashing Brandy. This isn't about that. You know, but I know that people may jump on this live stream and that's what they're expecting. This isn't about that. But what people have to understand is that statistics show over and over and over again that when it comes to children of these ages, 9 times out of 10, it's the parent or responsible adults who are involved. And that's inescapable. You can't get away from it. However unpalatable it is, that's a fact. So if you look at this case and you think to yourself, there is no red flags, then you're blind.
Right.
But you can't turn around and say, well, look, there's countless red flags, but because it's Brandy, we're not going to address them. Then how is that giving Michael justice?
Exactly.
And even Brandy herself must accept that. I'm sure that she would want to think that anybody involved in the search for this little boy is doing so to the absolute best of their ability. And I would be welcoming of it. I'd say, look, I need to see what you're willing to do. And if that means you're going to haul me over the coals, I've got nothing to hide, but I'm going to take it because it's going to give me an insight into what you're capable of.
Right.
What you're going to do elsewhere. So this seemingly, you can't say nothing, you can't do anything, you can't make a comment about how she speaks to her children, you can't address the fact that she's threatened police officers, she's threatened to burn down police stations, she's lied about CCTV coverage, she's hidden facts about the vehicles, and the fact that she even by her own words claimed that it was misdirection why she wasn't given certain information out. There's so many little things, the timeline, the calls that were made to law enforcement when they happened, all of these little details that could be explained by the fact that she wasn't there, so she's just filling in the gaps so we can see, well, hold on, that doesn't make sense. But it's still a red flag, because you then think, well, you are not then having a conversation with Tyler. You're not even having a proper conversation with him to give us the information, or law enforcement.
Well, that's
you're getting it wrong.
That's where I was going to go with it next. Was I see you found a lot of where she spoke and stuff like that. There's still basically nothing on Tyler, right?
No, Tyler's he's done little bits and pieces on Twitter Spaces, but the only real thing he's done out in the public was when he spoke earlier on. And even his attitude then, it was not of this distraught father. It was quite jovial. It was quite bizarre. But
she controls the situation.
She claims that he won't speak out in public because he's busy with work. Brandy can't work because she's at home and holding the family together, and she also used the excuse that he is kind of an excessive empath, where he's so empathic that he's just, well, she said that he's Sissy Lala. That was the name that she called him in response to sort of his mentality and how he handles things. But that's no excuse. You are the last person to see this child safe.
Right.
You was the person who was supposedly watching him when everything went wrong. But you're allowing your partner to become a dartboard for everybody, and you're just allowing it to happen.
Right. Right, and by him saying nothing, it's directing everything going to come to her, because he won't respond or make statements or anything.
No, you'd think, why wouldn't he just put, do you know what? I'll do one thing. I'll go and do one thing and put the whole lot to bed.
Right.
But he won't. And they've even turned stuff down. Do you know what I mean? I've got the notes here, like they were offered an interview with Inside Edition and they turned that down. Now, why would you do that?
I don't know.
Nah, that's big.
Yeah.
You know
Why? And it then leads you to believe, look, it's like you want to use these posters. Like everybody knows they're putting these posters out everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And you think that's as if they want to give the perception of doing a lot of work.
Right.
Right.
But when in reality, the boots on the ground stuff, what are they actually doing? What are they doing?
Right.
What are they doing to try and search, to try and find? What appeals are they doing with the father? You know, if I was the person, if I'd lost my child, I would be the person appealing.
Oh yeah, exactly.
100%. Especially if you was this far down the track and how do we know that somebody hasn't got Michael and are thinking, well, I'll let Michael go when the father grows some balls and asks for him.
Right.
God, that'd be
nice.
It'd be nice if it turned out that way, if he would hurry up and grow some. But I swear, man, I'm old. I have an old way of thinking, but I would just feel like, especially with it happened on his watch, the story should come from me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wouldn't want my Brandy, to be
in the foreign line.
I don't think she'd be able to do it.
No.
For one thing, I think she would be such a wreck. I don't think she'd be able to speak. You know,
No.
and I would try to stand up and take charge. This dude, he is
just in the background.
Yeah.
And let's not forget as well, on top of that, he's failed 2 polygraph tests.
Yeah. I've been watching your videos today, just trying to catch up. But yeah, I heard the recording.
And you just think that recording was actually a pre-recording from the Chris McDonough interview.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and Brandy, as far as I'm aware, she hasn't done one.
No.
So why on earth would she not have done one? Yes, people turn around and say, well, they can prove she's at work. I saw another YouTube creator saying, well, she was at work. I'm sure she was at work, but she came away from work.
Right.
That doesn't mean just because she was at work that she doesn't know anything.
Exactly. Yeah. Guilty knowledge.
Do you know what I mean? We don't. Like, they've led everybody to believe that there was witnesses down that road, that there was 3 witnesses. There wasn't. There wasn't 3 witnesses. There was one. There was one witness. She's led people to believe that there was sightings on the Ring cameras. Well, I've got the audio from her own mouth stating that there was no footage of Michael. He was not seen on the cameras.
So is that...
He wasn't seen on the cameras at all. And the person who did see him saw Michael walking back home. And the scent, which she led everybody to believe was in one place, which she, again, led everyone to believe was the only way in and only way out, which would have been going past the cameras. She shot herself in the foot because the scent was at the other end. And when they've recently did the press conference over Monkey's Law, it was actually on the boards there where his scent was picked up. That was at the other end.
It was on the opposite side of
on the opposite side.
Yeah.
But when she was offered for people to pay and to provide free search, she turned it down. And her exact response were, I don't want to waste everyone's time.
Wow.
Wow. Who was
it? You're just wasting your time. I don't want to waste anyone's time. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's awful. No parent would.
When she would have known that the scent was at that end as well. But she, rather than accept free help, she chose to instead say, I don't want your help. I'm wasting everyone's time. We don't want to waste everyone's time. But then allow the public to believe he was seen on camera by 3 people and the scent was found over there.
That's what I thought for a long time.
And then they wonder why people are thinking, well, now we are going to look at you. We are going to have problems with you. if you can't do all this and expect people to just be like, "Oh, that's all right, that's brandy."
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. And you know, I think a lot of people don't realize too, there is nothing wrong with looking at the parents right as soon as the kid goes missing, because you were talking about the stats earlier.
Mm-hmm.
The last time I seen it, it was 99% of cases, it was either a parent or a legal guardian involved with the child becoming missing.
Yeah, that's how high it is.
Yeah, it's that.
And when it's
somewhere reputable too, I can't remember exactly where, but and this wasn't long ago. So I mean, come on, that's 99 out of 100 parents have something to do with it.
Yeah, and what's scary as well is when you look at the other statistics, because it also then goes into statistics of children who are abducted by strangers, but how quickly they are then recovered.
Okay.
Because that's also in high 90%. So if a stranger would have abducted a child, they would usually have let the child go within 48 hours, and the child will be back, either because the child's escaped or the person has come from out of state, they've done whatever they want to do, and they've left the kid and gone.
Right.
And got out of there.
Yeah.
Because you've got to think, there's a big jump. There's a big jump between abducting a child, and we, you know, without going too deep, but if someone's going to abduct a child, there's only so many reasons that they're going to abduct a child. But there's a big jump between abducting a child for one thing and abducting a child, and it escalates to something else.
Right.
I'm saying not everybody who's capable of SA, for instance, is going to be capable of murder, because that's a big, big change.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, there's so many things that on this night would have had to fall into place. You've got to think the time. Michael was 5 years old, and we're looking at nearly 7 p.m. at night. So, first of all, who would be randomly driving around this specific area thinking that they would come across a small child in the street at that time of night?
On a Tuesday.
Because these are opportunists, aren't they? So you would go to this is why so many children get taken from parks, because there's children, there's running about, there's chaotic, and they can stand in the background, look for one to kind of drift away from the crowd, yoink, gone and away. Right. You don't generally see people taken from this kind of environment.
Right.
I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it is a lot. There's a lot more options that are available to these people.
The spot's not ideal because there are houses everywhere right there.
Yeah, well, that's like they turn around and say, well, there's only one way in, one way out. But that would be potentially seen as a negative to somebody who was looking to drive around thinking about finding a child, because how do they know they're going to find a child? How do they know where they're going to find that child? How do they know that they don't drive in or go to drive out just as someone else comes and blocks them in?
Right.
But ultimately, there is more than one way out of that place. There are dirt roads at the other end, and you can get away from his house without going past the cameras.
Well, I was going to say, when you said that, I was going to be like, I seen lots of options when I looked at the overhead map, because it goes right into an interstate, like another street over at the end of their street. Or it's a route or something. It's a bigger road.
Does anybody in chat have any specific questions?
Whoever took the pictures promoting that park needs to be looked at. Creepy pics. You know what that's about?
What's that? The creepy. Whoever took the pictures. That jumped off my screen. Let me go on to this one.
I think it's, have you ever noticed the difference if you look at the aerial shots from Michael's home to Summers?
Yeah.
The distance.
Yeah.
You'd have to think if there was a chance of abduction, it'd be better in Michael's case, though.
Like I say, you can't 100% rule it out, and you 100% can't. And I think if Tyler would have been talking early on, we perhaps wouldn't be having this conversation now.
Right.
But the fact is, because he's failed polygraph tests, he has allowed Brandy to go and be the voice, the spokesperson for them, and consistently make mistakes in the story. And they're simple things. They are very simple things. It's like saying that nobody in the family saw Michael that day. From the start, the older sister was out of the house. The brother who Michael would normally play with all the time, this specific day just happened to have locked himself in his room and play computer games. It's just, there's so many little things that you just think, well, that's just weird.
Yeah.
Not saying it didn't happen, but when you start hearing these recordings, and look, people have a problem with how these recordings come out, and I get that, but you can't keep going back to this is how the recordings were obtained. We're not happy about it. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. It doesn't take away what the recording is about.
Exactly.
The recording is there. We can put that to one side and agree, okay, how they are obtained is questionable, but look how Australia handles child cases when children go missing. They handle it by saying there are no rules. If a child's going missing, we're doing everything. We're gonna do whatever needs to be done, even if it means breaking the law. We're gonna do it, and it's effective. It is effective.
Cleo Smith's walking proof.
Yeah.
There you go.
You know that there's no way Hawkins County would have found her. I guarantee you that shit.
Yeah, there's not one person in this chat, in another chat, in any channel, in any walk of life, I would imagine, that could say that they would happily lose a child and rather that child stay lost than get them back because someone takes a sneaky recording of someone.
Exactly.
And if you say you would rather your child stay missing than for them to be found in that manner, then you're an idiot and a liar.
The reason they're missing.
Yeah. I had something to do with
that's it. The only person I could see saying that was probably Candace.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know who could really stand up and say, look, my privacy is more important than a missing kid. If you can do that, you're a bad person. If it helps them find a missing kid, you can look at my cell phone all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Definitely. I agree.
That's it. Someone had mentioned about the grandfather. This was a good thing. This was about they couldn't answer when the grandfather left the house that day. And I think what people are missing the point, why people are so interested in it, is again the camera footage, because they'd asked Brandy, they'd said, when did he leave? And she turned around and said, well, I can't answer that because I weren't there. And they were like, well, didn't you ask Tyler what time he left then? And she was just like, well, I didn't ask him because, well, it's just Dad. He just does what he... And you just think, even this just shows a complete lack of interest.
Right.
That's amazing.
It's like, and you think, if she was to give him a time, what would be the first thing that people did? They would then have a time where they could go and look at the Ring camera footage. They would be able to look at all the other footage and see whether that is accurate.
Right.
She don't want to give a time because it gives them...
Locks them in.
Yeah. That's it. And they're they just seem to be incredibly clever at it.
How much, do you know how many people had some kind of camera or anything on the street?
I can't say too much because we don't know, obviously, who's there, but there was enough camera footage in there to cover the one way in, one way out, if that makes sense. So if somebody was at that end and they'd come on, or if Grandad did leave as he should have done and gone out that way, he'd have been caught on camera.
Right.
There's one house specifically with about 3 different cameras on it facing in 3 different directions.
Oh, really?
We know who has got the footage. We know who owns the footage. And we,
Well, I'm sure the police has already seen that footage, right?
They've probably seen some of that footage, yeah. Whether they've gone as far into it as the grandfather and figured out that time, I don't think that has been done.
So,
We got to think, this is Fruitland Police, and this is another issue. Like, for those of you who don't know, I had offered in a video to pay for a private investigator, not just any, a proper registered private investigator with credentials, and I would pay for it. They ignored me, and then Lana Westbrook, we'll get to her later. Lana Westbrook, the public relations manager, she eventually she spoke to me in the comments, and she turned around and said about a private investigator. If you're willing to do it, I'm willing to have a conversation. We can have a conversation. But we would expect that private investigator to run everything by Fruitland PD. And I said, fuck off. If you want a private investigator that I pay for, that private investigator is going to be reporting directly to the FBI. With that, she deleted all of the messages, and I haven't heard from any of them since.
Really?
None of them.
So she's like the Fruitland Tim Mullins?
Yeah, that is exactly it. Yeah.
She likes
And this same woman, which is her LaWanda, she used to be the director of the Boys Film Festival, and she's the one who stole the money and got done for that.
No.
So she's questionable herself. She's got about 15 different emails. She's got about 4 different names. And yeah, she's crooked as they come.
It seems like everybody is crooked that is involved in this shit. It doesn't matter where you look.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Yeah. So, yeah, someone just put in the comments, she didn't want to waste my time. And that's it. She didn't want to waste my time either.
Wow.
And this is what I'm talking about. This trying to make it look like you're doing so much by putting these maps up where posters are going up. Eventually, I reckon in about 18 months' time, we will have a globe and there'll be Michael Vaughn pictures all over it. I'll probably walk down my street and there'll be a Michael Vaughn poster. Because that seems to be what she wants to do.
Yeah.
But I just don't see her doing anything of any real... If someone's seen the little boy, they're gonna have said by now. If he hasn't been seen out in the open by now, I'm telling you, you're not likely to, because he'll have either had his clothes changed, because saying he's walking around in this Minecraft t-shirt and his pants, he ain't.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, he'll have had his head shaved. He'll have probably had a baseball cap on. But you're not looking anymore for a little boy wandering around in a Minecraft t-shirt and pants.
Right.
And to be fair, we don't even know if he was wearing that in the first place, because the only reason that you even have heard that he was wearing that is because that is the last piece of clothing that Brandy saw him wearing, which was the night before. And that's why he was questioned. He was, like people say, why was he still in his pants? Because Tyler had apparently said he didn't get Tyler dressed that day because it was hot. So he left it, he let him get up, and he was wandering around in the same clothes that he went to sleep in the night before. But there was question on whether he'd actually changed his top, and he was in fact wearing a red t-shirt.
So what's on the poster?
Blue. And even that blue didn't match the t-shirt that was on that poster was not the t-shirt that he was wearing. The color was wrong. So that poster was actually inaccurate, and that was questioned directly with, I believe it might have been FBI. Dope, she may be in chat. She might be able to just clarify that in chat. But that was asked about. So we don't even know. We don't even know if these posters are accurate. But like I say, what's the point in putting these posters out when you know that that's not what you're looking for anymore?
Well, I mean, locally for sure. You know there is no way he's around there anymore. I wouldn't.
No.
Think,
It's.
I would go with the private investigator. That's what I don't understand.
I'd be snatching everybody's hands off. Like I'll even say it in here again. If they were to come to me directly and say, look, we will allow you to have a PI and investigate for us. But like I say, my stipulation is that they report to FBI, not to Fruitland PD. And I will not allow them to go through Fruitland PD because of this reason. Fruitland PD are constantly in contact with this family, and they are relaying information to do with all of the tips that are coming in. It seems that they'd given the heads up on the polygraph test. They had also ignored the threats that were made by Randy Neal towards these females, and they weren't just little threats, they was quite nasty. And you know, they, to the point where one of these ladies who he'd threatened was very, very scared. That was quite serious what he said. It was quite I know where you live and I will hunt you down. It was like he thought that he was fucking Liam Neeson.
Really?
You know what I mean? It was that bad. And then I've got the images of the text messages where Brandy Neal was laughing and bragging about that he basically got off it.
Was it Brady's dad that did that?
It was, yeah.
Yeah. And he was in the military, right?
Yeah, ex-Navy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Wow.
Even has him on it. That's crazy.
Is all these calls with the same friend?
Yeah. Well, ones I listen to.
A lot of them are with the same people. Yeah, there was like a Twitter Spaces. A lot of them were on where that was like a panel. They were going up together and having open discussions together. But it was initially triggered by it was when they you know what people are like when you start to talk and you get more relaxed around the people and the halo slips, the mask falls away. And you start becoming a little bit more open, and inconsistency started propping up. And it was like to do with the 911 call. And you think, but hold on, you said that you called at 7:10, but you didn't actually call at 7:10. You didn't call till 7:20. And people think, well, there's only 10 minutes. But it's a big thing in this case because Brandy had said she'd left work and came home to the search already being in action. Everything was already happening, but that's not actually the case.
Well, that's the version I heard too. I heard that come out of her mouth.
Yeah, and then also, well, they were going through the phone because this was when they were going through the phone together, and I don't think Brandy had even gone through it at this time. It was kind of, they all kind of went through it together, and that's when everyone was like, well, hold on a second. So the 911 call was actually at this time, and he'd said that he'd ordered a pizza, and the call for the pizza weren't even on his phone. So then they were like, well, hold on. You said that he'd ordered pizza, and he was waiting for pizza, and the pizza guy had turned up. Well, how did he order it? And then it was like, oh yeah, he ordered it online. Huh?
Really?
And this is when people are then thinking, hold on a fucking minute. Something ain't right.
So what are you thinking? There was another phone, or he deleted the call for some reason?
Well, was the pizza person really a fucking pizza person? Some people say, don't they? Did someone come to the property and take Michael away?
Oh, okay. Interesting. I've never heard that.
The fact is, you genuinely don't know. There's so many things that because of these discrepancies in the timeline and the things that are said and the things that change, you just think that it's no different than what we've seen in the Summer Wells case. When you pit these cases up against each other, they're very, very similar. And Brandy has a fixation over Candace. She is obsessed with Candace.
Really?
Yeah. And I think that that's for this reason. I think that what Brandy's doing is she's using her as like a canary down the mine. And it's like she'll look at what Candace does and gets the worst backlash from, and she'll do completely the opposite.
Right.
And it's almost like she's using her as like a guinea pig. Let's see how you screw something up, and then I'll do something. But ultimately, they're no different. They're just Brandy's just better at going in front of the cameras and putting on this little meek little mouse with a lost child, and Candace is just at the end of the day, Candace is just Candace.
Right.
What you're seeing is raw Candace. She probably weren't any different before someone went missing. She's not been different through it. She's not been different after it. You're just seeing the outcome of her lifestyle of abuse, of drugs, of alcohol, of poor mothering from her own mum, the addictive nature of what she said, just everything. It's just a culmination of problem after problem after problem rolled up into a person.
Yeah. Candace, the only variation in Candace is how ripped is she on this interview or this live. That's about the only difference you see in her personality.
Yeah.
Is she shit-faced or is she just high?
But what we've got to remember is, look, we know that Candace was like that before someone went missing. Yeah. That's potentially why someone went missing. Yeah. Or became to harm, because she was always shit-faced.
Yes.
So Candace, if anything, has been honest, because she's never tried to be anything else.
She hasn't been fake. You can take
everybody around her has been the ones who have made her look fake, because it's like when people have Hunter said, he turned around and said that Candace would be drinking and she'd think she'd lost something. She'd think she'd lost her, wouldn't know where she was, forget that she'd even had her, whatever. And then you've got these lives after she's gone, and they're like, well, are you all right? Do you need anything? And she's like, no, I don't need anything. I've got everything. I'm all right. And then you've got a whisper in her ear saying, what about the kids? What about the kids? Oh, yeah, yeah. But you think, but that's not Candace.
Right.
You're making her look like she should care, which she probably should, but she never has.
Yeah.
That's the fact. She has never, ever cared.
Yeah.
She's
just much better. Her PR is much better than Brandy Mills. Or, you know what I'm saying. Yeah. Brandy's much better at the camera than Candace is, for sure.
Yeah. But there's just this huge sort of shift in what Brandy's like to you and I and what she's like behind closed doors, where Candace is the same. Wherever she is, whoever she's with, whatever she's doing, it's just Candace.
Yeah.
And that's it. And you just think, why are so many people kind of so protective over Brandy, but then they'll happily hang Candace from a tree? What? Just because she's just never, ever had someone to teach her right, to be a mum for her, to show her what being a mum looks like.
Right.
You know, being in a loving relationship. She's not ever had any of that. She doesn't. She probably doesn't understand it, and she's so now accustomed to what her life is. She's trapped by it. It's like people who spend too much time in prison. If you spend 25 years, 30 years in prison, all of a sudden get booted out, you're institutionalized. The world, you wouldn't understand it.
Yeah.
And that's what you're seeing with Candace. Now Don's out of the picture, and she's now fucking being passed from pillar to post from the Magic Cowboy and Benny Keys, and that's what you've got. You've just got this fucking head spinning.
Yeah, right. And, you know, the thing about Michael Vaughn is, though, he has an FBI agent works his case. Did you realize that?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
That's an oddity, is it not?
It is unusual. Yeah. We'll not. Yeah. Yeah. There's more to that. There's more to that, and that may come out in the future. But yeah.
See, that's where my mind went. Was there's a reason for that. That's not typical. The FBI doesn't rarely get into missing children cases.
No.
It makes me think there must be a federal interest somewhere.
Yeah.
And that makes me think they might think Michael's outside of Idaho.
Yeah, I think this is being looked at more that it could potentially be trafficking than something. I think that could potentially be what they're looking at.
That's what I think it has to be, because FBI wouldn't have no interest if it wasn't. I don't think there's no other reason I can think of they would. Right?
Certainly, there's only a couple of options why they would get involved, and like I say, one of them's going to come out in the not too distant future, I'm sure.
What do you think? What about the white car? What do you think about it? That Fruitland police have such an interest.
The Honda Pilot.
The Honda Pilot.
Now, I was sent a picture, and so this is what you do. It's so hard because there's so much stuff that comes. We've seen like the Crazy Farm, how they've got roped into stuff, and and have people on there. But I personally believe the Honda Pilot is something to do with the family.
Really?
And I have a reason to believe that. But again, like I say, we've got a PI looking in that area, and yeah, the Honda Pilot, there's potentially more to that, but we're just waiting for.
Randy on a recording say not to be looking at that Honda Pilot. It didn't have nothing to do with the case.
Yeah, she had said about one of the cars. She basically turned around and said, "Yeah, we know that that's kind of nothing to do with it, but it's okay for the police to think they have got to look at it because misdirection at this point in time isn't a bad thing." And we've actually got her saying that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I've got the audio from that.
That's where I heard it. That makes me think something's up.
I'm about to be expecting an arrest with all the shit she's come out and said.
Well,
Yeah.
Definitely looks bad.
It's definitely not good. It's definitely not good. But it is, like I say, there's just so many things that that just don't make sense. When you've got a child missing, I can only go by what I would want to do, what I would want to be done. And I would, if I had nothing to hide, I was nothing to do, then it was just, look, I've screwed up. I've done what they've said he was doing, changing a nappy or whatever, diaper, and the boys wandered off. And that was my fault. And I would hold my hands up and say, look, I've screwed up. I was busy. I was doing this, that, and the other. He's wandered off, and he's gone. Take the hit, and if people are offering me help, then I'm going to grab it with both hands. Right. Thank you very much. If I weren't in the position to do it myself, if I weren't in the position to pay to do it, but people were coming to me and saying, look, we will do it, we will help you, then I'm going to, I'll owe my life, but I'm going to take it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and the only guilty people I've seen that went as far as to go with the private eye is Dior Coon's parents.
Yeah.
They had two that, well, they say they fired the one, but they fired him after he said, I think y'all did it. So I don't know how you can justify that as firing him. It seems like a conflict of interest to me. Right.
Let's have a look in chat. I saw someone in chat sort of, they said, what is your theory on what happened? Just because of what I've seen and what I've heard, I believe that this is high up there. And I'm not saying this is what happened. I'm just saying that I believe this could have potentially been, and that's why we're seeing such an issue, what we're seeing. That is that Tyler has been smoking, and either Michael had wandered off much longer than what he said. So he had a much longer time frame to have gone missing and something to happen. And they've potentially got the one witness to speak for them. Would a neighbour lie for you to get you out of trouble if you really needed it? One neighbour. He could have gone to that neighbour and said, look, Michael's gone missing. I need you to help me, and say that you saw him. Potentially. Or Michael has gone, he's come back to the house, and that witness who said he was going back to the house, he did indeed go back to the house, and Tyler's slapped him around the head, and he's hit his head against the wall, and that's it. And then grandfather has taken him away. And this again would potentially be why we're not getting an answer as to when Granddad left. Was Granddad there? Did Granddad hit him? Has someone hit the little boy round the head as a bloody running off? What you think you're doing? Because we've seen that seems to be what happens in that household. Even with the 2-year-old, they seem to resort very quickly to aggression. And we've seen it. Nobody can deny it. We've seen it. We've seen it from, we've heard as well by Brandy's own friend who brought into question Tyler's parenting, said that he was aggressive around the children. And that was, you know, I'm not saying that that's true, but what I am telling you is that was a friend of Brandy's that said it.
Right.
That Tyler was sometimes aggressive around the children.
What? How did we get now? What did I miss with Grandpa? How did he enter the story?
What's that? Sorry,
How did Grandpa come into the story?
You broke up again, mate. I couldn't hear you.
You got your volume on? Where did Grandpa enter at?
The story.
When did he come into it?
Yeah.
I think he was staying there.
See, that's what who was living in the house at the time, Michael?
So you had Michael, his two siblings, the sister and brother, both older than him. Obviously Brandy and Tyler, and I believe the grandfather was living there as well. I think he was or staying there temporarily.
Okay, see, I never knew that the grandpa lived there.
I'm not 100% sure. I thought something that I'd seen today sent to me was that he was staying at that house. Whether he was there for a couple of days or a day, I could have misinterpreted that. But on that specific day, he was 100% there. Let's just say that.
Whose dad is he?
That's what I was wondering.
That was Brandy's dad.
Ah. Okay. That's interesting. And the one brother, now earlier in the story, wasn't it that he said he felt bad for not playing with him?
And in the chat here, Dope Souls just said he does live there. So the information that I was sent, it's actually Tyler's dad, and he lives there. That's his house.
Okay, so it's Tyler's dad's house. They're living with him.
They're living with him.
Okay. But so there's Grandpa and his family.
Yeah.
Michael's family.
Yeah.
The girl's the youngest one, right? The 2-year-old, that's the girl.
That's the girl, yeah. Then you've got the so in fact you've got the 2-year-old, you've got the eldest, who I believe she's 15 or 16. Dope Soul will probably be able to clarify the age, because this is something that Brandy couldn't even get right, by the way. The ages of the older children.
Wow.
So how many were there total siblings?
3 in total. 3 siblings. There was Michael and 3 siblings.
So younger and 2 older, I think.
And the oldest one was 15.
She was either around that age.
Where was she at that day?
She had been out in the morning to some camp, I believe, and then she come back. She supposedly come back and had a sleep, and then was picked up by her friends later on that day, around 6:45 time, which would have coincided with when when Monkey went.
Wow. I said 15.
15 and 12. So
okay.
the boy's 12 and the girl's 15, and then you've got a 2-year-old.
I didn't realize the siblings were that much older. Those are some ages.
But this is again. This is when you then think that why can nobody provide any information in this house? Nobody seems to have seen him that day.
Yeah, it's weird.
That's odd that he went missing right at the time the sister left too.
It's the case is just full of, but people don't know, and that's the thing. People just don't know what really happened, and they see the early news reports, they see the stuff that was put out on, by Brandy herself, and how she got onto all of the channels. She was getting into all the comments
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, jumping on everybody. And that's what people saw. And it's like,
Yeah.
if somebody tells you something from the early, right at the beginning, it's like in the Summer Wells case. And it's like if someone says to someone, she was abducted, you kind of get that stuck in your head. It's almost like Summer Wells was abducted. And it's the same with the Michael Vaughn case. This, because of the dynamic right at the start and how well that was kind of hammered home, it's very hard for people to then start to look at an alternative. And sadly, there are alternatives with it. I'm not saying, like I say, I'm not saying, not at all, that Brandy Neal did anything or Tyler did.
Right.
Because the reality is we don't know.
Right.
But what I am saying is the way that they have behaved with Tyler not wanting to speak to the public, with Brandy consistently getting the timeline wrong, just saying things that are not right, by being straight out lying about certain elements of, like the CCTV coverage where the scent was found, the fact that, like we said at the beginning, there was only one way in and one way out when there isn't. Why would you say all these things? Why would you say them?
Her behavior is questionable. I mean,
and Tyler Vaughn, and I know, look, we can argue till we're blue in the face over polygraph tests, but ultimately he took 2, failed 2, and was told he would not ever be given a 3rd. That was it. So when you put all of these things together, nobody can surely turn around and say we shouldn't look at him anymore. How could anybody say it?
Is Fruitland looking at them at all now? Because I get the feeling when I watch the news conferences with the Fruitland police, they're almost all in on stranger abduction.
I don't know. I don't know. Obviously, the law, that when they had that meeting, that was nothing to do with law enforcement. You know, that was with law enforcement have not come out, and that's another thing. What people need to understand is, as we sit here tonight, law enforcement has not come out and said that they are not suspects.
Right.
There are people out there who believe that the police have turned around and said they are not suspects anymore, and that is not the case.
Right.
Law enforcement have not stated that.
Well, yeah, that's like in Summer's case too. You know, I think that says a lot that they haven't been cleared, because that's what the police wants to do to start off with, is clear the parents.
Right.
And for you to not hear they're cleared in 10 months, you know, however long we're at with Michael too, that tells you a lot, I think.
Yeah, it does, because you've got to think law enforcement, their entire job is to protect and serve, and part of that protection is to protect you from the perception of others. And when you've got parents that are in this scenario, their primary function at the start will be to clear the parents as quickly as possible, so they are not affected by public perception. Right. There is no risk of vigilantes. There is no taking the law into their own hands, or being where we are today. So law enforcement, they will be focused on, let's clear the parents. Sometimes they're not very freaking good at it. And ultimately, like we've seen in the Summer Wells case, that right at the beginning was handled horrendous, absolutely horrendous. Same as John Bennett Ramsey, same again. The police ruined that case from the start.
Right.
And if law enforcement had handled that case better from day dot, we would have had a different outcome.
I agree.
And that's probably why they're so reluctant now to enable that DNA to be looked at again, because all it's going to do is open up another can of worms and probably show the inconsistencies of how it was the first time around.
Right.
But no, the law enforcement want to clear the parents. Clear them. They're good. They haven't done anything, and leave them alone.
Yeah,
we're now looking over here.
It's better for the investigation to clear them as soon as they can.
Yeah.
You know? Do you know, like, how the siblings that live in the house, because I've seen other people asking too, Like with the older ones, Brandy's or Tyler's or both, or all four of them aren't theirs, right?
As far as I am aware, like people question about Tyler. Tyler is Michael's biological father.
Okay.
He is. I do not believe he is the father to the older two. I believe that he is the father to Michael and the 2-year-old, but not to the older boy and the older girl. I could be wrong, and Dope Soul could perhaps clarify that. I know they're obviously all Brandy's children, but I don't know whether Tyler is. So Dope Soul has just said Michael and Buggy, which is the Michael and the little girl. So yeah, the 2 older kids are not Tyler's.
Okay. Because it's nice to know that, because if you look at statistics, also non-biological relationships, and there's a lot of clues in all that, right?
Yeah. There's, when you look at a lot of the cases that are out there, there seems to be a lot as well, and this has nothing to do with being, I am a live and let live. People can do whatever they like, and I genuinely don't care what anyone do, as long as that they're happy and I'm happy. But you see a lot of same-sex couples, especially females. They seem to be very, very jealousy orientated situations where one of them has had children with a partner and they've then gone down that sort of sexuality route. There's a lot of cases where you see that, where there's such a jealousy that it turns into a rage and the child is killed in that situation.
Right.
But like you say, step parents as well is a huge one. There seems to be, again, it could be a jealousy thing, where people have come into a family and they feel that these children are taking the affections away that they're entitled to, and we see a lot of that. So you are right, but in this case, Tyler is
biological.
Indeed. But I think in it, what we've seen, I think this call that we've recently seen of Brandy and how she was with the 2-year-old is the turning point in how people should perceive this family, because it gives you an insight into how they handled the children behind closed doors.
Right.
Now, if you can, in that type of aggression, use that terminology and threaten a threat of violence. Now, people will say you take that out of context, you're blowing it up out of proportion. But let's not forget, this is a family who have a child who is missing. And that changes it completely. We're not talking about Mary down the street. We're talking about a family who has a child missing. We know there's alcohol abuse issues. We know there is drug abuse issues in the past. And there are criminal convictions around that as well. And there is violence between Tyler and Brandy. And we're seeing Brandy threaten violence to a 2-year-old. So it wouldn't be far out of the question to think that Michael could have ran off. He could have been out hiding, and the people in the house were looking for him. Dad was looking for him, got himself in a state, got himself worked up, and he's walked back into the house, and Tyler, not meaning any harm, but is whacked him around the head, and he's hit his head on the wall. Complete accident, and panicked, and you would potentially then see Brandy wanting to protect Tyler. Perhaps Michael behind closed doors was a little bugger. Perhaps he kept wandering off, and it drove them both insane. And perhaps Brandy is perhaps Tyler is a genuinely nice guy the most times, and he has gone to her and said, "This is what I've done," and she wants to protect him from an accident that happened, and ferociously so.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like when it comes to cases where it ends up being one of the parents, that one of them is willing to protect the other one, even if they come in on it late, they ain't got nothing to do with it. It seems like there's a lot of partners that are willing to cover some shit like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you look at there's a lot of these cases, like the drawn out ones. it's like the two UK cases, the big sensationalised ones, Star Hobson, Arthur Lavinia Hughes. These were cases that this weren't like a short period of time. These children were tortured over months and months and months. And these parents were manipulated by their partners to accepting it, to thinking it was okay. It was some of the text messages that were sent from, especially in the Arthur Lavinia Hughes case, they were horrendous. You know, it was like, well, I'm going to clout him. And it was like, yeah, give him one from me sort of thing. Do you know? And you just think, how have you got into this?
I tell you, the worst case of that I think I've seen is the Gabriel Fernandez. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
They tortured that little boy for a long time. And that was another example of a partner controlling the other one, it seemed like to me.
Yeah.
It seemed like the his mom to me seemed like kind of like the puppet master of that.
There's a few cases. I'm looking back at mine now because I've done a case. It was one of my earlier videos, and it was the young boy who the whole family turned on him, and they'd fabricated a story about that they'd taken him to a party and he'd got kidnapped from this party. So basically, it was his birthday, and the whole family put him in the shower and froze him to death in the shower.
Wow.
And they then fabricated this plan between them. That was the mum, the brother, and the sister. And then they tried to set fire to his body. That didn't work. And then wrapped his body in a bin bag and just threw it in a street somewhere. And that weren't that long ago. And you just think to yourself, this is a family. This is... I'll find it in a sec. And you just think, what is going on with these people? But that was... But when you look at some of these, there are some really, really horrendous cases.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of tragedy going on. I've been doing Harmony Montgomery lately, checking into that, and you know, the one thing in that case that I think is such a beautiful thing is the police have both of them in jail and haven't found her, but they're already in jail. They went back and got her dad for assault.
Right.
I don't even know where Harmony is, and there was never nothing done at that time, but they've managed to throw his ass in jail, and I just love that.
Yeah.
You know?
Damari Perry, that was the one. If you have a search up on Damari Perry and look at that story, that's actually ongoing at the moment. They've not been to court yet. But yeah, that was a horrendous case.
Where was that at?
Damari Perry.
Is that UK?
That is America.
Oh.
Okay.
That's US.
I haven't heard
You
of
look
that.
at Christy Seipel as well. You look at that case. You know, this is straight up mum trafficking her young daughter to an animal.
I tell you, it's amazing that a mother can do that.
Yeah.
Well, any parent, regardless, but even a mother, it just, I don't know what goes wrong in your life or your mind that something like that could happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh no, you've got to be in a dark place to start some of these situations. But then again, what our version of the Summer Wells case, you look at Madeleine McCann, and
what's the most recent on that, on Madeleine McCann?
So my personal opinion is this, and that this Bruckner, this German guy, it seems to me like they're trying to pin it on him. That's what they do, and they're now saying that there's fibers from Madeleine's pajamas have been found in his camper van. That's just been. I don't know whether that's mainstream at the moment, but I'm telling you, that's what's about to come out. What everyone's going to learn, and that is that it's been let slip that they're claiming that fibers from her pajamas were found in his camper van.
Really?
Yeah. But how did they get there, and this, that, and the other. Because the thing is, they are getting pressured heavily in the UK to stop paying them. There is a fund that is paid around £150,000 a month to fund this, and it's been going on for 15, 16 years since it started,
Right.
and it's racked up 17 million in total. This has cost the taxpayer. The taxpayer has paid for it, and
Wow.
it's now getting to the point where there is now becoming pressure to say, look, we can't carry on doing this. But why are they doing it? That's a video in itself. That case is a video in itself.
Yeah, that's amazing that they would carry on that long with all the missing children there are. That seems like a lot.
There's so much stuff in that case. So much stuff in that case. I actually have spoken to the people who trained Eddie and Keela, the dogs that were used in that case. And those dogs were never wrong. Those dogs were never wrong. What's that?
What did those dogs come up with? Anything?
Yeah, they pinned the whole lot on the parents. They tracked blood in the apartment. They proved that there was stuff that had been moved around, that the apartment had been cleaned, and there was blood found under the tiles. Mm-hmm. They took the cadaver dog. He managed to pick a car out of a underground car park full of cars, the car that they had hired, and that he's a cadaver dog, so not just a sniffer dog, a proper cadaver dog, and he took them to a car that they had hired. He took them to the wardrobe in the apartment, and this is the cadaver dog, took them to the wardrobe and found the scent of cadaver in a wardrobe in one of the rooms.
Wow.
Now that Amaral, the guy who was in charge of that, he said, and obviously he brought out the book, Truth Behind the Lie, and he said they did it. If you and I would have been facing what they were facing, we wouldn't be out now. We would still be in prison. I promise you. There is not another person. Well, not what I'm saying is there isn't a normal person who would have escaped conviction.
How have they? I don't understand how they've escaped it.
Money.
Is it?
There's a lot of talk about other things like Masons and all sorts.
Right. Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't put it past that to be a fact, because you've also got to think this Tapper 7 as well, the people who was there. We also know that we could have a situation like we do in the Summer Wells case where we look at, was Summer shaved her head and dressed like her brothers to make her look like her brothers?
Right.
Well, when Madeline was on holiday with these guys, there was another little girl with them on holiday in that group called Amelie, and she looked very much like Summer. But no one could recollect ever seeing them lot together and these two girls together. They only ever saw Maddie.
Madeline.
So you've got two girls who look almost identical, not really ever seen together.
Right.
So were the sightings of Maddie actually Maddie, or were they indeed Amelie?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've never heard that either. Of course, I haven't heard nothing on Madeline in a long time. I didn't realize the thing you were saying about the pajamas.
I've heard the Freemasons
I've heard the Freemason
and
stuff.
ritual.
I think that's the most plausible situation that the Freemasons were involved. When you thought that they were able to get a big extradition lawyer, they got out of the country. Like, in all fairness, and this is what I've said, because I know people who are in the Freemasons, and they've said if they were not guilty, the amount of effort they could have put into finding, they would have turned that whole island upside down.
Click on that.
Yeah.
They could have turned that. They had just the sheer power to have turned that entire island upside down.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We're trying to slow the chat down.
Do you think John Bonet, they might have been linked to Freemasons too? I've heard that.
I've heard that. I think it's a lot more simple there. And again, this is just my opinion. I think the mum done it.
The mom?
Yeah, I do. I think that it was one of these typical arguments where the little girl didn't want to do what the mum wanted her to do. Probably pageant orientated, that just got out and she's hit her. That's what I think. I think that's it.
What's your take on the fact that they made the ransom the same as his bonus? Didn't you find that weird as hell?
Yeah, yeah.
But it feels like double psychology to me.
And I was about to say exactly the same thing.
Like they did that, so
they did it on purpose for misdirection,
right?
Yeah, because they're not stupid. You got to think they are not stupid people. We're not talking about Don and Candace and these sort of people. We're talking about people who had brains.
He was really smart.
Yeah, and I think they did it on purpose, and that's what again makes me think that it was the mum who did it. This was in that house. This was internal. It wasn't someone outside. This was in there, and they stared that. But law enforcement killed it off. Law enforcement, how that was handled, and how that crime scene was handled right at the beginning. That case was done in the water that night.
She should have been found by a police officer as soon as they came to that house. They should have searched it then.
Yeah, that should have been cut off as a proper search, and that's it. The people...
Even me, I feel like I would have known when I got there better than to tell Dad to go search the house. Are you sure you look good? Well, go look again. I'll stay here in the living room and bullshit with Patty.
Yeah.
You know?
That whole situation.
That was handled poorly. You know, that's what's got me scared about this summer thing. I'm starting to think they really butchered the beginning of it, thinking she had wandered off into the woods.
Yeah.
And didn't maybe do as much as they should have.
Yeah.
Maybe we answer some questions. Or
I'm going to sling you some questions as soon as we get one.
Let's get chat involved.
Yeah. Anybody got a question?
I'm on the trigger now, and we ain't talking until we get a question.
I will just address the things about the Freemasons. Like someone had turned around and said they had a relative who was in the Freemasons and they wouldn't have protected a pair of doctors. That's very untrue.
Yeah.
I'm telling you the way that the Rankins, I'll call them Rankins, but you work your way up. And to be fair, you're not truly a Freemason until you're in the real upper ranks in there, and you don't really know what can be done and will be done. But that to cover up something such as that to two doctors is something that is commonplace all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think the Freemasons are not involved in some nefarious shit, because they are. They are very, very good at hiding it at the lower levels. Mm-hmm. And but when you start getting into the really upper levels and the people who have been in there for a long, long time and powerful people,
right?
Yeah, there's some power, real serious power yielded in the Freemasons.
Right. Yeah, definitely. All right. The first one we caught was, did Candace sell Summer, or if she passed, got rid of her with Dawn?
I think the downside with the Summer Wells case is there's so many potential theories of what could happen, what could have happened, that I'm going to say I genuinely don't know. Trafficking is rife in the area, so you can't rule out trafficking 100%. You can't, because it is rife in that area, and they are kind of the poster family for trafficking. What kind of family would get embroiled in trafficking? That's just it. But you've also got the fact that the story surrounding the swimming hole, etc., just seems a little bit jaded, if you like. There could have been an accident there. We've also got Grandis, who claims that Summer wasn't well and that she was taken off the property to Don. So it's hard. It's hard to say.
Yeah, that's me. I go back and forth, back and forth. I don't know.
I feel like to play it safe, you can say that something happened to her as a result of some sort of negligence.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And it
To
went from there.
be in a nutshell, if her parents had have not been negligent, she would still be here.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
That's my safe theory. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like it's going to fall in those parameters that it was whatever happened was a result of negligence.
Yeah.
And I think that covers a lot of possibilities too, you know?
Yeah.
All right, let's go to comment. I'm now so confused on what is known and what's false with Michael Vaughn.
But that's it. That's what we're here to do, is just give the information. Like I say, this isn't let's bash Brandy, because it isn't, because we don't know what's happened. All I'm saying is you can't see red flags and choose to ignore them just because you like someone or you feel sorry for someone. Because if we did that every single time this happened, there would be a lot of dangerous people walking the streets. And to do the child justice, you have to do everything. You have to do everything in your power to find that child. And sometimes you've got to go into places that you ain't going to like. You're going to have to ask questions that people aren't going to like being asked. Yeah. But they have put themselves in that position. And people will turn around and say, look, they don't owe you anything. You're not law enforcement. And, you know, you're right. We're not law enforcement. But I am someone who is sitting here saying, I will pay to help you find your child. I will do that. But all I'm telling you is I will not go through Fruitland PD. I will go through the FBI. Why is that a problem?
It shouldn't be at all.
No.
I would prefer it if it was my child. I would feel better with FBI and you know, going that way.
All she does is defend herself, like in comments and everything. That's, as a mother, I wouldn't be doing that. I'd be trying to find my kid, doing whatever I could.
That's it.
Herself.
All right. Drug-related negligence in Summer and Mikey's cases? Question mark.
Very plausible.
Yeah.
Very, very plausible. I think best case scenario, and I will say this, best case scenario is that Michael wandered off out of that house because his father was not looking after him at all. He was smoking marijuana, lost track of time, lost track of what that little boy was doing, and he had wandered off.
Yeah.
And got taken and got abducted. And that's, like I say, and let's make the bones about it, that is best case scenario.
I agree.
Because ultimately, that little boy at that time of night should not have been wandering around outside that house on his own. No. He shouldn't have even been able to get outside that house on his own. Now, and my argument to anybody who tries to say anything against that would be, look, this little boy was 5 years old. By 5 years old, you know what he's like.
Yeah.
You know whether you've got a kid who can open the door, is likely to walk out, is likely to walk down the road. And what it sounds like is he was a child who would indeed do so. So if that's the case, lock the friggin' door and take the key out of it and keep it in your pocket.
Right.
Job done. Not a worry. You're done. You're not in this position you're in now. So best case scenario, you fucked up and you lost your kid.
I agree.
And own that shit is what I would do.
And that's it. And just hold your hands up and say, look, that's what I did. That's what I did. And that's it. There's no, you can think what you like, and that's what I did.
Right.
And I don't want to talk about it anymore because I'm gutted. I did it. I shouldn't have done it. And I'm heartbroken. And this is the first and the last time you will hear from me.
Right.
And I would appreciate if you left my wife alone because she wasn't fucking there.
Exactly.
And she doesn't know anything because you weren't there. And you could even turn around a little bit of the Bennett Ramsey case and reverse psychology on it. People will say, stop asking her stuff because I could be lying to her. So she can't tell you anything. All she can tell you is what I tell her.
Exactly.
And I'm not going to tell her any more than I've just told you.
Right.
Yeah, and that's just like Summer's case. You're always hearing the story from the person that wasn't there, supposedly.
Yeah.
You know? All right, next. Do you think the parents could be hiding Summer until forensic evidence cannot show neglect, abuse, or SA so they don't face felony child abuse charges? I think that's highly unlikely at this point.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't. I think what they on about, what keeping her alive. To be fair, and I will say, familial abduction is growing across the US. It is something that is growing. So you couldn't 100% rule it out. But what I will say is you have to be quite smart to do it. And even though it's a difficult one because it's not. I say you've got to be smart. You've got to be smarter than Don and Candace. Because what we've got to remember is Don is out of the picture. So you are then leaving Candace to manage a familial abduction situation. And she hasn't got the stones for it. I just don't think she'll be able to do it.
Yeah. I think a lot of people want to believe that. I would like to believe that's, well, not for those exact reasons, but I'd like to believe that somebody took her to get her away from the situation too. And, you know, I still have hope. You never know. No. Nobody knows for sure anything. Everybody needs to remember that.
There is always hope until there is no hope.
Exactly. And I don't want anybody to not be looking for Michael or Summer or anybody I talk about, because I never am going to say until there's proof that either one of them are gone, right?
No. That's it. I agree.
What do y'all think about Candace saying she's not to look for Summer? I think law enforcement told her or someone did. I don't know. Not to look for Summer. I think she's asking Candace saying that she's not looking for Summer.
Law enforcement told her not to look for Summer herself, right?
Oh, is that what
you're asking?
I'm reading the question.
Yeah, I've heard this before, that law enforcement told her not to search or not to allow searches.
I heard Trezell West say that.
Yeah, I'd take that with a pinch of salt.
Yeah.
If it comes out of Candace's mouth, the chances are it's not true.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. I don't know why they would be telling her not to look now. I mean, what could it hurt, you know?
Well, like I did the video, was it? I can't even remember when I did it. I do that many videos, I can't freaking remember. This morning, I think. And it was questioning law enforcement and what they're doing. It was this morning. I don't even know what day it is now. and look, there's two things going on with law enforcement. That is, they're either as bent as a two-bob bit, or they know exactly what happened, but they can't prove it.
What are you leaning towards?
I'd like to think after this amount of time that they know what's happened. But there's a lot of stuff in the background with this law enforcement. We know that, you know, Ronnie Lawson's his background and history, that's got some real ropey stuff in it. You know, I'm not directing that at him directly, but his family, you know, they're not all, let's just say, law-abiding citizens. And, you know, it's this whole area, you've got people who are connected to either the courts and law enforcement and then criminal. There's so many of these little these little case, like the treasurer, the Tennessee, one of the treasurers from around Rogersville. Do you know what I mean? They'd got done for fraud or whatever,
Right.
or embezzlement or whatever.
Yeah, I just seen that. Yeah, that was recent. Wasn't it?
Yeah, and you just think, oh, like I heard there was a teacher around there who's just been done for either watching pornography in the school or something.
I seen that. Yeah.
And you know, they were apparently laughing and joking about it. You had one of Lawson's friends, he was a doctor who got done for giving scripts away or selling them. I don't know what he was doing, but Lawson got him off because he backhanded the judge, give him some money and got him off. So all this stuff happens.
I
So,
got sent Ronnie's police record, and he had 3 DUIs himself.
yeah.
That's the one I
some of
seen.
his relatives from years and years ago were some of the biggest drug people around the area.
Right. Yeah, that makes you think that there's something going on in Hawkins County for sure.
Well, we know what's going on. He's trying to get re-elected. He don't want to do anything that screws that up before it happens.
Right.
Why do people think that he's been in power for as long as he has been?
Yeah, it's been, what, about a decade now?
Yeah, and it's not because he's fantastic at his job, is it?
No, apparently not.
Good question.
It's because no one will run against him. No one will run against him. And why won't anybody run against him?
Right.
That's what I've been asking. Why does nobody under him have career aspirations to become sheriff? Because that's what I usually see inside of 10 years running unopposed.
Yeah.
Hey, is one thing.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
we look at that recent case as well. The guy who got pulled over in the DUI, who they've just kicked the shit out of, and now he's going for a lawsuit for $3.4 million against him.
I've seen that.
And look how Lawson come out. He literally walked out and said, "Well, he basically got what he deserved." Yeah, what of it?
Well, it ain't coming out of Ronnie's pocket.
Yeah, and you just think that's who you're dealing with.
Yeah. Here we go. What about the uppers? Does anyone know who they are?
Realistically, I think she was just referring to the PIs. I think in her own mind, but there is speculation that it could have been something beyond. There's so many in. If you dig deep enough, you'll hit something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's church uppers, right?
There's the upper rooms of Tennessee, which, you know, they are a big organization.
Right.
So yeah, she could. You can't turn around and say she's definitely not talking about them.
Right.
But I've been trying for some time to try and find a connection. But sometimes, and what I do find because I've been looking at cases for 20 years. This is always, ever since I originally done my degree, I was looking into crimes. And sometimes no connection is your connection.
Right.
Because it's almost like in some walks of life, you would expect certain people to be part of something and if they're not, then that in itself is strange.
Right.
It's like Tim Mullins. It's like Tim Mullins and Robin living in this area, both being involved in the church, but claiming to never know each other.
Right.
You know, and you just wouldn't buy it. And if you couldn't connect them two at all anywhere, that in itself would be a red flag to me. But thankfully you can. You can go back through Robin's Facebook and see that he's been liking some of it. The thing is, you don't know when he liked them, but there's pictures that have been liked by Tim Mullins on Robin's Facebook from 3 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking at somebody's the other day, their messenger. I want to say it was Ronnie Lawson, and there was somebody we've heard of on it too. I don't want to let it loose. I'm kind of saving that, but there's ties between everybody I've seen. You can damn near link everybody we've heard of to somebody else in the story. It seems like.
Yeah.
You know,
From one way or the other.
it's such a. I guess where it's a smaller community. It's not as big of a shock, but it's still amazing how it seems like each person knows the other.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Anything could happen. I think we could all end up being caught from a curveball in both of these cases.
Probably.
I tell you though, I would have to say I would be less shocked if Michael turned up to be abducted.
Yeah,
just because where he lives seems like it's such a greater chance than it would be in Summer's situation.
To be fair, this is how I look at it, and in a sec we'll go back and we'll have a look at some more questions. But look, this situation with Brandy, the reason why I am passionate about understanding that red flags can't be ignored is because we as a society have turned into a society that are too willing to do that.
Yes.
We will ignore red flags. We will ignore what's happening. And that is why these children are suffering as much as what they are. And the sad fact is people do not, and I think I said this on our other live, that people don't understand how much this is happening. I could tell you about crimes that have happened in the last few weeks that you wouldn't have heard about that have happened in the US. I told you before, we spoke about the family who the mum had decapitated the son, decapitated the dog, and claimed that she'd done it because she thought that the boy had the devil in him. These things are happening all the time. And you hear people turn around saying, well, we thought she was all right. And then you talk to someone else and they're like, well, no, she was a bit weird, but we just didn't say anything. She was a bit, or you'll hear that there was warning signs and nobody said anything. We got to get out of this mindset when it comes to children that it isn't our responsibility to ask a question that needs to be asked.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And Brandy was getting none of that in the beginning either. None.
No.
I seen nobody questioned anything. I think you may be the first one I seen that actually raised, some question.
Yeah.
And I know you caught a lot of shit for it in the beginning. Right?
Yeah, well, also I told her straight to her. She addressed that was the first and only time I have spoken to her directly. She commented after I had said about her interview and the fact that I found what she'd said. It was disingenuous. It seemed off. And I said, it seems off what she said. And she spoke to me. And I turned around and just said to her, I said, look, I've got nothing against you. But this whole channel and the premise of this channel is to look into situations where harm has come to a child.
Mm-hmm.
And based on that fact that parents can be involved, I'm going to look at you. It might be that I say something that you don't like. It's not personal. It's because it exists.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
If something exists, then I've got to talk about it. If it doesn't exist, I won't talk about it. If trafficking wasn't an issue in Tennessee, we wouldn't have to talk about it. But we talk about it being a potential risk to Summer because it's there. But you can't turn around and say, well, we can't talk about it. Can't talk about it because it upsets somebody.
Yeah. And it's not fair that somehow it's okay to question shit Dawn and Candace has done, but it's not okay to question things Brandy and Tyler have done.
No.
Just because they represent themselves horribly to begin with doesn't make it different, in my opinion. Right?
Exactly.
It's the way I see it. And I think that's what a lot of it is. It just seems like they come off so bad from the beginning, it became okay. Yeah. But Brandy, she was more reserved. She seemed more like what you would expect. And therefore, she's above suspicion, apparently, in everybody's eyes. And I think everybody's kind of woke up to it now. And I think you did a good part in helping people realize, there is maybe something not right, at least. And I think it's only fair that people can talk about that the same as they talk about Dawn and Candace.
Well, I'll put this, and we'll move on. But if you look at some of the most prolific serial killers that we've ever seen, they are some of the smartest people that there were. You know, it doesn't. You don't see. There isn't a way to look to be a bad person. Anybody can look as any way and be horrible. You know,
Right.
the monsters and all these horror films that we watch, that we all watch today, and there'll be horror fans in the chat. You may be a horror fan yourself. You know, they are to provide us with monsters to accept as the things that are scary. But the scariest thing is that the biggest monsters on this planet are walking amongst us.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
And they could look like any one of us.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
You wouldn't have been able to look at Ted Bundy walking in a supermarket and think that he was capable of what he did.
He's always my example, too, when I go with, you know, talking about how you can't tell what a serial killer looks like. Because that dude had game back in the day.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And I know it's kind of off topic, but it's not, because it's proven you can't look at someone and make a decision on whether they're capable of doing something or not, because there is nothing, no rule book that says someone has to look like something to be able to do something.
Right.
So people have got to get that out of their minds. They just have to look at the bare bones of it and think, right, we've got mother and father, child missing, what happened? And then you answer that question, right? So mum was at work, dad was at home with little boy, and little boy went missing. Why did little boy go missing? Best case scenario is, what was dad doing? So he managed to get out of the house. Why hasn't he been pulled in more? You know, even if they turn around and think he's been abducted. But he got abducted because the father was neglectful. They walked into the house and the house stunk of marijuana.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he'd ordered pizza. So what? He'd been smoking marijuana, his house stunk of it, and he's ordering food while his kid's wandering off down the road, getting picked up.
It makes you think there's a good chance that's what happened, too. You
Yeah.
know? Because I think being, if they're smelling marijuana, he's super stoned. There's less chance of him being violent and better chance he wasn't paying attention and the kid run off. And, you know, it was because of, once again, neglect, you know. That's neglect, in my opinion.
100%, yeah.
All right, we got another question. Grandis was in both areas at the same time, both Rose and Summer's disappearances. Opinions?
We definitely know that Rose isn't over on the farm.
Yeah, I got in trouble for saying that.
I had to. Look, I had to.
They don't like us over there. I don't know why.
We can all get duped. The amount of people I've had people who claim to be fucking Rose, and I've had all sorts. Do you know what I mean? I've had people comment who've said that they were round theirs having drinks on the 15th of June. Could you imagine? If I'd done it, I don't know. I could literally set up another channel and just have these people on it.
Right.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
There's some, oh my God, some of the stuff I get is amazing. Absolutely. Yeah. I've got a year's worth of content sitting there, which I'm leaving. Be like a, when
if they ain't dug up that driveway for Rose yet, I'm going to lose my shit because I've got that one 5,000 times.
Yeah. She's under the driveway.
She's under that damn driveway is where she's at. Why nobody will look, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you think, though? I mean, it is odd that Grandis happened to be, you know, has the tie-ins and was in both places. You know, now I don't know exactly how close to where Rose she was, but it was fairly close, and she was definitely in Tennessee. It's odd. It's odd. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't hang around her ass. I'd be afraid I'd shoot up missing, wouldn't you?
Grandis.
I mean,
She's involved in both cases. But
What do you think? Do you think it's involved? Do you think
I
there's...
don't so much think she's involved in Summer's case,
Yeah.
but I believe that she was potentially involved in Rose's case.
Do you think she knows about Summer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I've been getting a lot of, you know, how much Grandis hated Dawn. I keep hearing a lot of that lately.
But
I
I also think now we are this far, and people are going to hate this, but I think now we are this far down the track, we now know that Don didn't have anything to do with it in terms of the harm itself. If he was involved, he was involved in covering it up for them. Because if that had been anything different, Grandis would have thrown him under the bus long ago.
Right.
That would have come out from somewhere, but for nobody to say it. You know, we've seen that Grandis has spoken to Ziggy. You know, that would have come out there. That would have been a part of that conversation.
Right.
Right.
But the fact that Don has not been thrown under the bus by them proves that at the very his involvement was cover up for something they did.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. I thought for a long time that there's a chance if one of them did not know, it was Dawn. And I think now, though, as long as he's been in jail and they still haven't thrown him under the bus, he's got something on Grandis's ass. He's got to.
Yeah, he knows that where Rose is, and I would imagine that, and this is a horrible thing to think of, but we're going back to the driveway. For them to turn around and say someone won't get found, the only way they know is if she's gone somewhere where something else is that hasn't been found.
True, yeah.
I've always wondered why he's so confident, and you know what you're saying. That explains it, you know.
Yeah.
Because he is damn sure confident.
Yeah, and there's no to have that much confidence. There is not many options to have that much confidence, and I've always thought kind of. You don't want to go down that route. There's always hope until there's no hope. And I am a firm believer in that, but that is just that confidence is the bit that bugs me. And that confidence just rattles in the back of my brain. And I just think he knows where Rose is.
Yeah.
That's what he's got as a hold over them. Because I haven't really Grandis hasn't badmouthed him. In fact, she's been the opposite. She's been quite, she's called him Donnie when they were talking about lawyering up. He was like, well, I can't speak for Donnie, but do you know what I mean? Almost still that.
It seemed like a term of endearment when she said Donnie, didn't
Yeah,
it?
That's
what I felt.
I can't speak for arsehole while he's in prison.
Jail.
But and I just think that he knows where she is. He probably helped cover that up with them. And Summer is there with her. And that's where his confidence. There was questions over, obviously, why he wanted to be at work on his own. He got rid of Dudley. There was someone had said about whether he'd bought concrete.
Right. Poured concrete.
And obviously, Grandis going away from Ben Hill Road quite soon after Summer went missing. She took the truck and she's either changed the truck or she changed the back end of that truck, didn't she? Right. So, things have happened. There's some bits and pieces around there, and I think, I don't want to go too much into that because you're then going into the realms of giving up hope. But if I was to say, okay, let's say that there is no hope, then what's happened? That would be the route that I would take. If I had to hazard a guess, something happened. And Don covered it up, and he covered it up by putting Summer where Rose is.
Yeah.
And that's what gives him the confidence to say she won't ever be found. because they know what 9 years has passed or 10 years has passed and have not found Rose.
Well, I asked you this last time you were here. I just want to see if you still feel the same. Does Dawn ever make it out of jail?
I think he will.
Me too.
I think he will.
Yeah.
I
think he will.
Because a lot of people don't seem to get that Dawn was just questioned. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That wasn't. God, I hope not, but I'm feeling like he might.
I think.
I think that's been blown up a little bit worse than what it actually is.
See,
and I don't mean in terms of what he's done. I mean in terms of how law enforcement have taken it.
Right.
Like you say, he was questioned over it, but that's as far as that went. They didn't press no charges on it. They didn't. You know, he's going to have to answer more questions about it, no doubt. But yeah.
See,
it's not as clear cut as that. When you're talking about a case, you know, when he was that young and they were that young, it's not as clear cut as what people think.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it makes you wonder how. I don't know. I'm like you. I wonder how much that question actually, what it actually meant. You know, because I feel like that could have been just an attempt at a confession. A lot of times it seems like they'll do that. They'll take a stab at a confession, and if they don't get it, maybe they don't have the case, and that's what that was. You know?
Yeah.
Because that was a long time ago that what I understood when all this happened, because Dawn's late 50s now, right?
Yeah.
So this was I don't know where the charges all fall, but I'm thinking they're his early teens. So you're looking at 40 plus years.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how easy that is to prosecute, even without the statute of limitations, apparently
evidence and
problem.
Witnesses.
Without his confession, what evidence do they have?
That's the issue, isn't it? They would. It's not as clear cut as people think. I think you'll walk. Personally, I think you'll walk.
It's mad.
And I think that 40 years is going to mean a lot too.
Yeah.
They said apparently one of those incidents was Dawn and two other guys, I think, attacked Marius, the way I understood it. And like they were going to question the one dude and they still haven't found him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just waiting for somebody to be like, well, that's who ran off with Summer. I can't believe that didn't get started. Now, I don't want to start it now, but I really felt like we would hear that. Oh, well, that explains it. You know? I've heard weirder shit, you know, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's where my mind kind of went. And I was like, nah, I shouldn't have said it now because now I'll be answering for this later. But, yeah,
Have we got any others?
I'm screening.
Ask him what his thoughts was on the red truck with the ladder rack.
What are you thinking about the red truck and the ladder rack?
Now. Anything different than last time?
Well, it's almost like if you live there, you've got to have a red truck with a ladder rack. So we know that Tim Mullins has had one. We know that Robin has had one. We know that I think Jodie Sue has been involved or potentially had one. I'm not 100% sure, but someone's mentioned that along the way. But there's so many red trucks around there. I don't.
What do you think of?
Lawson have one. I think even Lawson had a red truck.
Well, Jose said that the company he worked for had one he borrowed all the time. Remember?
Yeah.
That's what Jose says. He said they had one at Tucker Drywall.
Jose's full of shit.
Jose's super full of shit. You ain't kidding, man. Boy, he went away quick, didn't he?
Yeah. He did his interviews and gone with the wind. He
was like in and out. Nobody made it in and out of the story as fast as him that got as much attention as he did. And I still haven't seen Jose True Justice or anything pop up.
Yeah. There's these characters that come in the story then out. So
Jose was out quick.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I don't miss him, do you?
No, he's probably in a U-Haul van somewhere going to stay around someone else's house.
Hey, have you seen that picture of Summer with the short hair in front of the U-Haul truck?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
What do you think about that?
I'd like to know exactly when that was taken. But the thing is, like, they talk about, right, that what was this run from New York to Rogersville in this U-Haul? It's so obvious that this was drugs involved in this, that U-Haul are so renowned for being used for drug runs that they're used even in programs as vehicles being used for drug runs.
Yeah.
I was watching the Ozarks the other night. That's for those of you who haven't seen it, I say a US. I think there's 4 seasons of it about a guy who launders money for a drug cartel, Mexican drug cartel. But they use U-Haul vans.
Right.
And I thought then, I wonder whether Jose was in the back of one of them.
If you look at his hair or at Summer's hair in that picture, it looks like it's at the same length as the milk jug picture.
Milk jug, yeah, I thought
really
so,
close to
I think
it.
we touched on that before.
Did we?
Yeah.
That makes me think that, and I know it's a long shot, but that could have been that they were doing that repeatedly, whatever it was. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm
well,
trying
apparently, that the place where Grandis was supposedly where she took him is at Ducktown or somewhere. When Grandis took Jose away from there, she took him to a place, and this place I can't remember what it's called, and it's on the other phone. I'll have to email it to you because I'm now looking into it, because apparently there's a place with the same name, but they're in 2 different places in the US, and one of them is a small little town that holds that same name, and that's at a large kind of intersection where a lot of roads join, and it's renowned for different drug running routes to get out and about. But should cut a long story short, there was hearsay that it's been put down as hearsay that Summer was apparently seen around this place on the day she went missing. Really? Yeah.
Oh, really?
So I'm just looking into it. I'm looking into it.
I tell you that I know that picture though. Her hair looks like it was close to the last time she was seen.
Yeah. As I wonder, I think what they're trying to get at is potentially Jose could have been the person who got her away from there with Grandis.
You know, the video you did the other day when you had somebody, I think you said had sent it to you, and it has Summer talking and singing and stuff.
Yeah, that was this morning.
Dude, I teared up when I watched that.
Why?
Because it just hit me hard, because I have never heard her talk.
I haven't either.
That was the first time in what you had that I had seen all that. I think I had seen one little piece. Yeah. But it was something else. It brought a lot more personality into.
I'd heard so many people even question whether Summer could talk.
I questioned it forever because I thought maybe there was an issue where a lot of the times she never was speaking at all. There was so much video and she wasn't talking. Yeah. Apparently though, it really broke my heart that one. I think they were giving her something. It was at Sunday school is what I'm thinking. And her hair looked like it hadn't been combed in 2 months. Yeah. And I was just like, God, what a piece of shit to bring your child to church with her hair looking like that. It really upsets me when you think about it, Sucks.
Yeah.
But
last couple of questions.
That was well done. I'm waiting on questions. We ain't getting any.
Last couple. We're nearly 2. We're nearly at 2 o'clock.
We got 6 minutes. Y'all better bring them hot and heavy. Had you heard her speak before you seen that?
No.
Yeah, I hadn't either.
Horse getting sleepy.
Whoever did that, put that together, that was very
Look at my
well
hair.
done.
Look at my hair. That's what's under my hat, look.
Oh,
That's why I keep my hat on.
You need to go that route. Just go with the hawk.
Oh,
Jesus. I look like I spent a month round Candace's house.
Yeah.
Somebody has David Dotson, question mark, question mark, question mark.
That bloke, to be fair, is so dodgy that I'm going to do some more. I am going to do videos on him. I haven't done videos on him because you're kind of opening up an even bigger can of worms with him than you are with Tim.
Right.
And I didn't know whether putting him in the mix was helpful. But if people want to know about him, we can certainly tell you about him because he's quite the guy.
Did you see his new wife?
Yeah.
She looked about a tenth of his age, didn't she?
Yeah.
I thought
that was creepy as shit. I figured that was an SDA thing maybe or something. I don't know that religion. I shouldn't have said that. I take that back. I apologize.
Yeah, that don't have nothing to do with it.
You're talking about the Hope charity thing, whatever it is. I can't remember what it's called, but they supposedly help mothers with children.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've got quite a lot of. I can't remember what it's called. I've had it for a while, but yeah, they're supposed to be. The SDA Church are involved in it's like an organisation that helps single mums.
Yeah, I think I've heard that too.
The Hope, I think it's called the Hope Foundation.
Right. Yeah. What's your take on the church? Any thoughts on that?
The problem is what church isn't dodgy.
Right.
That's the reality. I did a video on Robin and it got mixed reviews. And again, it's like we've said with Brandy Neal, it just her behaviour is what kind of freaks me out. And you've got to accept there's one or two things happen with Robin, and that is either the way she was with Summer before she went missing was completely disingenuous, or she knows something. Because it's like you can't be that close to a child and understand how much that child dotes on you to the point where they consider you their surrogate mum, which is seemingly how close Summer was to Robin, for her to vanish and then for Robin to behave the way she has, which, you know, it might just be her way. But the giggliness,
I feel like Robin just is one of them people that, you know, you could pull an Amber Heard in her bedroom and she would smile through it. I just feel like she's kind of weird in that way, you know?
Yeah.
I know it comes off really bad to a lot of people, but
yeah, and that's why I'm not going to do anything more on her. But I just felt that it just needed to be said that.
Yeah. I feel like she did care for Summer, though. I really do. And I know Summer liked her, and that's probably the best person she got to be around out of her bunch. Somebody's asking the cremation of Summer. I think we talked about that last time.
Yeah.
How hard it is to do.
Yeah, no. Just because they wouldn't have had the facility to do it. That's the thing. It's a much harder process than what people think.
Yeah. And that would
we said before, even a child of Summer's size, you're looking at temperatures exceeding 1500 degrees C for a period of 90 minutes. There's nothing in their house that's going to generate that. You would need a proper oven to do it, a cremation oven. Right.
Yeah, I don't think there's nothing to that.
Yeah, many people have tried. We talked about Damari Perry earlier. You know, his family tried to burn his body, and people don't realise because of how much water is held in the body, it's actually very, very difficult to burn a body.
Right.
And that's why they have to burn them at such a high temperature, because first of all, they have to dissipate all the water out of the body, and then the body will burn. But you wouldn't do it in anything that Don would potentially have, like a wood burner, large wood burner. You wouldn't do it. Just wouldn't happen.
Well, since we were talking, should have been mostly about Michael. I think we got off track a little bit. What do you think as far as the outcome for Michael? Do you see justice coming? What do you think?
I don't think there will be justice coming, because and this is for why. I think they're going to rule that he was indeed abducted, and I think that Brandy and Tyler will walk. And I think it's because they've got friends in law enforcement. They've got friends within Fruitland PD.
Right. And
that's why that Michael himself will escape justice. He will not get justice. That's what I think. I can see this heading there. There's just so much support for the family. Nobody dares say anything, and that is local as well. There's.
Well, maybe you will help change the tide. I think you have definitely opened up some eyes with the tape of the 2-year-old. So,
I think I think a few more people are now beginning to question it, and that's what we need to do. That's what we want people to do. We're not saying we're right, but what we are saying is we're right to ask the questions that need to be asked.
Exactly.
You can't. We preach this: see something, say something, but it's not see something, say something if it's palatable. It's see something, say something, regardless of who you upset, because what's important is the child, and that's it.
Well, Harsh, that's our 2 hours. Once again, it flew by. I want to thank everybody, all the mods, Harsh, everybody.
Yes, we had some mods from my channel over here as well. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you for helping us. And everybody, it was a nice chat. Nobody's mean,
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, so we thank you.
Harsh, I think you did Michael's story a big bit of justice tonight, and I appreciate you for that.
Yeah, well, we needed to get it out.
Yeah.
Right. All right, Harsh.
Okay. Take care, everyone. And I will see you all in the next one.
Okay.
See you, Harsh. Thanks.
So I should do a Dom B. Bam!
Oh, no. See you, Harsh.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you Friday morning.
Shut up, pros.
Uh-oh, we're stuck here.
Never mind. There we go. Well, guys, I think Harsh, once again, he did a great job.
He did.
Breaking it apart, all the Michael Vaughn stuff. And I want to say, nobody's saying don't look for Michael. Nobody's saying that Michael's gone, and nobody's saying anybody's guilty of anything. But like we did say, everything should be looked at. It's only fair to Michael.
Yeah.
That everything's looked at and everything's done in order to find out what happened to him, to find him, or to get justice for him, right?
Yeah.
Thanks everybody coming. Thanks all the mods. Thank you, Jennifer, Pam. Thanks all the Harsh's mods for helping out. Thank everybody. I know we missed a ton of super stickers and super chats. Brandy called them up. I want to thank everybody, and we'll see everybody Friday morning. Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye. See y'all.